everybody, and welcome to the Alonzo Says Show. I'm your host, Alonzo. Today is Thursday, July the 3rd. Tomorrow, Americans all over the United States, a portion of them, will be celebrating a day that become known as the Independence Day on July the 4th. Which brings me to my discussion today. That discussion is a phenomenon that has taken over the landscape of the United States the past 4 years. It's created a fight from the Beltway all the way up to the Capitol Hill. And it's at a level that has never been before in the history of working in the United States of America. And that discussion is unions. Unions has pretty much been attacked from every angle, from right wing to right wing extremists. We're going to examine today, are unions really, in so many terms, are they really needed as much as they were in the past? They're kind of treated as antagonists to the American workforce as well to the revenue. I tend to stand on the fence on this. When I take a look at a lot of things that the union offers to the American public, I somewhat support them. Now, like any company or organization, there's always need for improvement. But I do support a lot of their initiatives and proposals and a lot of the way that they're doing a lot of things. I happen to be on the internet, and I seen an article from this gentleman named John Hawkins. He's like an author of it's called the Right Wing News, which was the moment I seen it, I realized that where this was going. And pretty much his article was 5 reasons why the union is bad for the United States. And I wanted to kind of take a little snapshot of exactly what he was talking about. His first one was he felt that the union was damaging the industry as a whole because of the massive pensions, the driving jobs overseas, and they had to be bailed out because of bad investments. Well, my feelings of that was that, without a doubt, first Mr. Hawkins, he's a right-wing extremist, which tells me a lot what his views is. He's not coming in as a non-partisan. He's not partial. Pretty much what it is, he's looking at it from one angle. He's looking at all the information that he can say, okay, this is all bad information, and I'll filter it out to the public. But I won't give you anything that I feel that will kind of go against the argument that I'm making here. And that's why I'm here. The massive pension is something that has been earned. It's been earned by these workers. Okay? You can't decide now that these people have earned this time and put this work in, and now all of a sudden you want to take it away from them just based on the fact because we don't like unions. We don't like the fact that unions are forcing American companies in union style to pay a fair wage. Because if you take a lot of look at a lot of people who work outside of unions, their pay is paltry at best. It's not keeping up with inflation. The company is making massive profits, and it's not that they can't give you more. They just refuse to give you more because they're busy giving themselves and their stockholders all of the revenue that has been gained through profits, instead of sharing it with the same people who has entitled them and got them all this profits. So I have a very disagreement with him with that massive pension. They've earned that. They have a right to keep it. And most of these companies just refuse when they decide that they want to reorganize. They just refuse to sit and, well, we don't want to pay that now. Why not? They've earned this. They've earned it. Why shouldn't they be allowed to keep it? And as far as the job overseas, you don't blame that on unions. Now, when President Clinton agreed with the Republicans on that NAFTA, a lot of jobs were sucked right out of the United States. That had nothing to do with unions. Unions fought to keep the jobs over here. So, Mr. Hawkins, I think you need to get your facts straight when clearly you have a lot of companies now who taking their company and pushing those jobs overseas based on lower wages. And I'm not talking about a $2 or $3 difference. I'm talking about slave labor type of wages. that someone in the United States wouldn't even remotely take, because they know that they're worth more than that. But they take it and put in these third world countries where these people are desperate for jobs, and then they pay them slave wages. So it's not based on need, it's based on greed, and a lot of companies doing it. And you can sit and say that unions are responsible for that, okay? So I want you to place the blame where the blame is. Now, as far as like them having to get a bailout, AIG, Goldman Sachs, which has nothing to do with the public, nothing in terms of job stability. They got bailed out. And Bush got them bailed out, and I haven't heard one piece of evidence in your writing when you went against Goldman Sachs or AIG, but you're going to sit and attack General Motors. Obama saved that auto industry from total collapse. He saved a lot of American jobs, and he pumped money right back into the economy. Whether you want to give that man credit or not, he did that. Mitt Romney pretty much had felt from his capitalistic standpoint that why don't they go and get a loan from someone? Why don't this company go and get a loan from somebody? Now this company is already on tinkering, on bankruptcy, and now all of a sudden a private company, a private equity company going to loan him some money. He knew that wasn't going to happen, and he knew it from the jump start even before he said it. But that was just his way of saving face to say, okay, let this company collapse. The only reason why they want to collapse because they know that it's union ran, that they have a relationship with union. You didn't hear him say that about Goldman Sachs or AIG or some of these other boiler room companies that they call trading companies. So don't place the bailout as the reason why unions is bad for the United States. That's a blatant, outright lie and disingenuous, and you know it. Okay? And American people, you deserve better than that. Now, I have a problem with people who sit there and basically work for UPS or places where they're unionized, and they sit and complain about the union. Oh, well, they take this money and do all this with it. They take the money and do all this with it. But see, you're paying your dues, and they're looking out for your best interest. When you get your raises, it's because of the union. The company is fighting you getting those raises, but the union is fighting. They're sitting there every day fighting. And the provisions in those contracts, they're fighting on your behalf every single day. Nothing is free. You go get a lawyer, you got to pay for it. You get a public defender, you're going to get a public defender, and you're lucky to get that. And you can only hope that you got the best out of that. But anybody who knows anything about business know that if you're going to get in one tail any kind of business, it costs money. And you paying your dues is them just like you paying a lawyer. When you hit a snag, they're there to represent you, okay? No different than these companies who sit there and pay companies to sit there and look into your background and look into your health records and look at your movement on Facebook and all these other places. They're looking out for their best interest. But you don't see people complain about that. They sit there and almost accept it. And without unions, a lot of these companies would have taken a lot of money from you, paid you wages that's well beneath market value. And unions force them to come to the bargaining table in a more fair manner. And what has happened is the Republicans have created a hostile environment to unions, and it's unfair. You know, like I said, the union, sure, they can have a whole lot of things they can improve on. But I know that they're absolutely good for those people who have your pensions now when you retire. You can thank the union for that. For your medical benefits, your those vacation times that you had, those 401k, you can thank the union for that. But don't sit there and accept it from the union, and then all of a sudden now you want to be an enemy of them. Because you can always say, you know what, I don't want you taking on, I'll leave this job before I continue to be with the union. But don't sit there and complain about it, then continue to stay and reap the rewards that they fought for. You know, I can't, if you're going to be true, be true. But don't be a hypocrite at the same time. And that's what Republicans and people who support this kind of tyranny is doing. Okay, let's just be realistic and factual about this, okay? Now his next point is ruining education. And that's basically what he's saying is teacher unions who sit and strike and feel like that they're underfunded. And they are. Teachers should be teaching police officers, firefighters. These should be people who should be the highest paid people out there. Policemen that put their life on line every single day for you and I and a whole lot of people in the community, and they're not getting thanks for it. You know, you're having people like the Republicans who sitting there trying to cut their legs off up under them or make them do more work for less pay. But you see these same people who's up on the Beltway in Congress and all these other in the closet right-wing extremists, they wouldn't go out there and do that job. Firefighters who saving lives, and teachers. Without teachers, 90% of people wouldn't be lawyers and doctors and seamstresses and teachers and all the different careers that's out there. It's based on teaching. And those teachers deserve a better handshake than the pay that they're getting. If I was president of the United States or anything of that nation, I'd make sure teachers are taken care of. You can't have a perfect system on anything. That's just a fact of the matter. But the point of the matter is teachers deserve to be paid and compensated at a high level, in my opinion. And they shouldn't be because they went to Harvard or they went to Yale or they're in a well-to-do community. It should be because they're teachers and they're molding your kids for tomorrow. You send your kids to school and they become the product of that teacher. And a lot of people who become successful thank a lot of teachers that help them out. So I think that once again, I have a problem with Mr. Hawkins' assessment on the education system, where you have a lot of the money that's diverted to richer areas that don't even need the money. And then they leave those poor areas behind. They give them outdated books. So by the time that poor areas, kids in 12th grade hit courses at a 10th grade level, whereas people in the well-to-do area who have plenty of money funded in, but it's flooded in by rich Republicans and people like Mr. Hawkins and Ann Coulter and Sean Hannity, who sit there and push unions and not teachers. They push that money right back into the rich area. But those people, when they get out in 12th grade level, their level of education is almost at college level. They're prepared for college and for the financial system out there. So people, please do your research instead of listening to people like this Mr. Hawkins. You know, that guy is, in my opinion, he's an antagonist, in my opinion, because he's an enemy of movement, unless it's on the right wing. Okay. His next one is unions are anti-democratic. He feel like, you know, it costs you billions because the government workers shouldn't be having a union. You should pay them as less as possible. Now, would you want to have a CIA operative making $9 an hour? Would you want an air traffic controller making small wages? You want the best to be paid the best. As simple as that. You got to pay for talent. The only way you're going to retain talent is you have to pay it. Instead of suppressing it and trying to have these people doing more work than they should for less money. Okay? Now, I agree with that quote from someone who replied to him as far as the CIA operative. Because you have to pay these people. Instead of, well, we're going to try to lowball them and then still have the best talent out there. But we won't do that for Congress. We won't do that for all these Goldman Sachs, these boiler room places like that, all these big corporations who get corporate welfare and don't deserve it or need it, or they get big tax breaks for sending jobs overseas. We're not going to do that to them, but we'll do it to the American worker who's sitting there and producing the revenue and having to streamline a talent that's United States citizens that's in our work pool. Why would you sit there and go to China and Japan and places of this nature and ship in these people and give them all kind of tax credits and money because you want their talent over here when you have talent, bedded talent right here in the United States that all you have to do is invest in, make college affordable, and have work programs for people who's poor who can learn a new skill or education system. instead of shackling them or using these kind of tactics to sit down and undercut for profit base only. Take a look at that, ladies and gentlemen. Now, the last one is the government of bankrupting cities. That's, once again, disingenuous at best. They're just using that to go after unions. You have a lot of these cities who's taking money that they have in their funds and taking it and pushing it and putting it in everything else that should go on the roads and education system and all kind of other initiative. That money should go there, taking and diverted somewhere else. Places that me and you never get to see or out until it's too late. The money has already been spent and it's gone. Or they're sitting there looting it themselves. And then they'll sit and say, well, we'll try to blame it on unions or welfare payroll or stuff of that nature, which is, like I said, just it's so disingenuous, it's disgusting. And people, you have to start to do research. Now, the biggest union out there is AFL/CIO, the American Federation of Labor, and the Congress International Organization. Now, they formed in 1955. Now, they had issues at one time because the CIO was including black workers in votes and a whole lot of proposals that they was making, and the AFL wasn't. And they merged later on, and CIO started to have that problem again with not including black workers. That's why I say when it needs to have improvement. Every system needs to have improvement. Well, when you're having brotherhood, it should be everyone. Black, white, men, women, it shouldn't matter. Everybody should be up on one umbrella, fighting for one cause. That's fair pay. Fair take-home pay with benefits. And that's what unions provide you, because you have a lot of places like even Pennsylvania that's a right-to-work state. They can fire you at moment's notice. But when you're union, they can't just do that to you. They can come in tomorrow and tell you, you know what, you're making $15 an hour, we're going to cut you down to 10. Just because it's for money-making profits, and we feel like that's well above industry standard. But with unions, they can't just do that. UPS, they have to go through new negotiation with the unions for new contracts. They can't just decide, you know, we just want to decide that we want to take this away from them or take that away from them. Because if they could, they would just do that. But because unions are there, they refuse to allow them to do that. That's what you pay for. And they sit and say, oh, well, union take this money, do everything else with it. Sure, and you also have a lot of these so-called heritage foundations and all these other right-wing places that receive money and funding and take it and do all kind of unsavory things with them, using in unflattering terms. But you don't have them sitting there complaining about that. Now, you should be sitting there looking at unions and looking at every single dollar they spent. If you're going to do that, then it should be across the board too. You should take these corporate Americans who take their books and cook them, or have their accountants, or refuse to open the books to allow you to sit and see them. Okay? So if you're going to be fair across the board. Okay? So I call people to action to support unions. You know why? Because with unions, you're going to get a fairer handshake than you would walk into that office and it's just you one-on-one with that company or that corporation. Because they're designed to just completely just screw you, no matter how good of a worker you are. And with unions, they're at least making it fairer at the bargaining table. And they're losing memberships daily based on public pressure. Republicans, governors, and senators is going after them in large swaths. And you have Scott Brown, who was in Massachusetts, who just had a furlough against government workers and union workers. And now he's about to be investigated for his own backroom shady dealings. Okay? So a lot of these people, they're hypocrites. They'll go after you with everything they got, but you watch what they're doing and the sneaky tactics that they're using. And I sit and say, unions deserve to have a fair place at the table. Now, as I stated before, they need to have improvement in what they're doing. However, they're still needed. They're much needed in the workforce. And it behoves you people to sit there and support these people. And go out there and join rallies. And join membership. Yeah, it's going to cost you. And for even people who decide they don't want to be unions, you know what? They still sit and represent you anyway, because you're paying your part. And what you're paying compared to what, just think about it. What you're paying in union dues compared to what a lawyer would charge you is peanuts. So you need to really think about that. I'll be discussing more on this union thing as I go into research and get more facts on this. And I'll have another show down the line on this union thing. I'd like for you all to feedback to me on my Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, Pinterest, or my website. For all you all today who watch my show, thank you so much. Have a safe, prosperous 4th of July. And I look forward to seeing you next Thursday at 1 o'clock on the Alonzo Says Show. Take care of yourself.